Hey everyone, Usman back here with part 2 of my top 10 favorite Marvel TV shows of all time. So I'm going to be going down the list again. It's all leading down to like which one I like the most. So my number 4 is The Punisher. So The Punisher debuted on Netflix in, I believe, November of 2017, and it had 2 seasons, and it ended in, I believe, January of 2019. This is my number 4 favorite show. I think Jon Bernthal is like the best version of the Punisher that we've gotten like ever. Like there was another version. His name was Thomas Jane. I think he played him before. Or no, there was Thomas Jane, played him in the early 2000s. There was another guy. His name was Ray Stevenson. He was also in the Thor movies. He played one of the Warriors 3. And then there was another guy who was in it as well. His name was Dolph Lundgren, who played the evil Russian character in the Rocky 4. So those guys played the Punisher, but if I had to be honest, my favorite was Jon Bernthal. He just captured, I think, the brutality and the sort of anger and just sort of the emotion of Frank Castle really, really well. Exploring that sort of emotion and depth of the character, I think he was great. And I think Jon Bernthal really nailed it in every scene he was in. He was phenomenal. That's why I think he's the best Punisher that we've ever had. He was great in Daredevil Season 2. And, just when he was in that show and he was, having a back and forth between Daredevil and, when he was against, Wilson Fisk, I just thought he was just so great in it. And, of course, he was a fan favorite they gave him his own series. I think he's probably just as good, if not better, than what he was like in Daredevil Season 2. So I think that's, a bonus to this whole thing. The action, like I said, is really great. Him just going just out there like that was just so brutal. That's really all I could say. And also, just so devastating. Not only did I think the action was great, it's not as great as something like Daredevil, obviously, where, both Daredevil's and Punisher's fight styles are different, but I just feel like the fighting in this show specifically was just one of the better ones after Daredevil, in my opinion. That's just what I thought. As well, sometimes I kind of did think that the violence could be overwhelming a lot in many scenes. You could be like, okay, that's just way too much. That doesn't need to be there. It's gratuitous. It's too much. Like, there would be times where I would think that in certain scenes of the show, but it's not made for kids. But, they went all out, and I appreciate it for that, at least, trying to stay true to the character, so that's fine. Karen Page coming back in the series was not bad. I didn't really like her that much in Daredevil. I thought she was kind of like whatever as a character. Sometimes I just thought she was just kind of annoying, but I thought she was like a much better supporting character in the Punisher series as opposed to what she was like in Daredevil, so that's what I really appreciated. Season 1 of The Punisher, I find it to be better than Season 2. Same thing like what I said about Luke Cage. Season 1 is the superior season, but as I said, just like with Luke Cage, I still think Season 2 is still not bad, and I still think it delivers the types of things you would want from, a Punisher show, a superhero show. Jigsaw did not look like what he would look like in the comic books, obviously, but I think they were trying to go with, a different approach. I think they wanted to go more psychological than something, sort of physical, something that was actually on his face, because in the comic books, his face is, all messed up and in so many different ways. It's like a jigsaw, because his face looks like a jigsaw because of what Frank Castle did. In the show, I guess I can appreciate it for in that aspect of it probably was more of a psychological thing. His mind is like a jigsaw. I would say one of the most memorable fights in the show, I think, was in the second season. I think probably the 4th or 5th season. And so you saw Frank fighting a bunch of, he was in a Russian gym fighting a bunch of bad guys, and that scene was so intense. The fight choreography was off the charts. It was really, really, as I mentioned, brutal. You're going to hear me say this multiple times during this, talk about the show. And not only that, I just thought that the music really got me amped up for the fight as well. I always feel like score in a scene, a score from in a scene is so prominent in making a scene much more sort of make it stand out, make you hyped, make you amped up to see what's going on. So that, for me personally, would be something I would say about that. Just the choreography and the score of that specific scene. One final thing I could say about this is that you could probably expect, for me personally, I think Frank Castle is one of those characters that, whenever Jon Bernthal's playing the character on screen, I would expect Frank Castle to just in any scene he was in, I would expect him to just jump out and, go out and probably kill somebody, do something incredibly violent and terrible and horrific because of who he is. That's how powerful Jon Bernthal's performance was as this character. So coming in at my number 3 is The Defenders. This show came out in 2017 as well. I think it came out about 3 months probably before The Punisher. And so this series I actually quite enjoyed, probably more than most people, because I know a lot of people were underwhelmed with the Defenders, but I actually thought it was kind of interesting because it was like Netflix's version of the Avengers in a way, street level characters. And also I just like the dynamic between the characters, like, certain character interactions, obviously Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and then Matt Murdock, Daredevil with Jessica Jones. I just like that quite a bit. I just like the sort of back and forth between the characters mainly. That's what was intriguing about the Avengers movies and what they did with that. That's what I think about this with with the Defenders as well. I thought the action was really well done. As usual, I still love the fight scenes with Daredevil. I think the way that they showcased the characters' fight scenes in the show, they were perfect for what they were. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are more of typical just regular brawlers, and then Daredevil and Iron Fist are more like, martial arts based characters. And there's a fight scene, I think, in one of the episodes, like later episodes, where Daredevil and Iron Fist were fighting, and you could see that whole thing. I think Daredevil annihilated Iron Fist. He actually beat him up pretty well. He definitely won that fight, and you could tell that Iron Fist was truly struggling when he was fighting. Danny Rand was truly struggling when he was fighting him. So I love that scene. That was probably one of the better parts of Defenders, in my opinion. There's a character named Madame Gao. She was in Season 2 of Daredevil, and even Season 1, and a little bit of Iron Fist. So, she's had interactions with Daredevil and Iron Fist. I like the dynamic with her. She's a very interesting character. She's very cold, calculated, and she knows what she's doing. And the actress that played her, I don't know the name of the actress, but I think she did a very good job trying to go after the Defenders, destroy it, try to go forward with her plan. The character of Stick, who was in Daredevil, obviously he's Daredevil's trainer, trained Matt Murdock how to become a great martial artist, and he's also blind. He was one of the best characters of Daredevil, as well as even in the Defenders. The little time we saw him, he died in Defenders, which was kind of a bummer. Sad that he didn't appear in Season 3. I think the actor did a good enough job, and he really nailed it. Scott Glenn. He seemed like more of the kind of comedic type of character in the whole situation, so that was pretty nice. The Matt Murdock scene at the end of that, when he sacrificed himself, that was fine. I think they found a way to set up Season 3 well, but they always do that a lot in these kinds of shows and movies. It's like, oh, he sacrificed himself, so-and-so sacrificed themselves only to be alive, so he essentially faked his death. They do that a lot. Sometimes I like that. Sometimes that's interesting. Sometimes I'm like, they don't need to do that. Why'd they have to do that? It's unnecessary. But whatever. That was fine. Coming in at number 2 is The Incredible Hulk from 1977 or 78, I think. Roughly in the late 70s. I think Bill Bixby, who plays David Banner or Bruce Banner in the show, I think he does a great job in the role. He's one of the better actors who played Bruce Banner. I don't know what ranking I would give him, but I don't know. I think I would say it a little bit behind Mark Ruffalo, maybe. I would say he would be number 2. I would say he would be number 2 behind Mark Ruffalo. So it would be Mark Ruffalo, Bill Bixby, Edward Norton, and Eric Bana. And he was the real heart of the show when you think about it. The different scenarios that he would be finding himself in were enjoyable and weird and funny at the same time. Sometimes he would just it was so easy for him to just get involved, and then people were like, hey, you don't do that, and then he gets pushed somewhere, and then always just turns angry and stuff. It was just so weird and funny, and just sometimes just incredibly bizarre, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Is another series that is like Spider-Man, which embraces the corniness of its time because it came out in the 70s, so it also embraces the corniness of it. I can't really tell which one I think is more corny. I think they're both sort of equal level of corniness, so that's kind of what I would say about that whole thing. But at the same time, it's a series that didn't have CGI, kind of just like how Spider-Man was. Spider-Man didn't have any CGI. It was a real person. It was a stuntman. It was a stuntman who did a lot of the stunt work. They had Lou Ferrigno, who's a bodybuilder, who played the creature. They just put him in green paint, put him some prosthetics and stuff like that, just made him look like a genuine monster. And so I thought that was actually it worked out really well for its time, and, an inspired choice. And on top of that, I just think that, if I had to be honest, if they ever try to do a bodybuilder type of thing today in green paint, I just feel like that would never work. People would just make fun of it, be like, this is the weirdest thing ever. And the feats that we've achieved with the technology that we have, the CGI, I think that works out perfectly. But I know a lot of people will be like, there's too much CGI, whatever. But, I think the CGI is perfect. It's just getting better and better. Even though the original series concluded back in the early 80s, they actually, I think about 6 years later, they brought back The Incredible Hulk again, and they brought it back with 3 TV movies. The first one, I think, had Thor, and then the second one had Daredevil, and the other one didn't have any Marvel characters. Just any other Marvel character, was just that. So that's what happened in regards to that. So my favorite one is the one where he's teaming up with Daredevil. Matt Murdock represents Bruce Banner because he was tied to like the subway debacle or something like that. There was in whatever. So if I remember clearly, so it's cool seeing either way both actors, like Bill Bixby and was it Rex Smith as Matt Murdock interacting. We got to see Matt Murdock and Bruce Banner great, and Daredevil and Hulk kind of together. That was pretty neat. I really enjoyed that a lot. I heard that back then they were gonna make a Spider-Man and a Hulk crossover. Like I heard that the actor who played Spider-Man, Nicholas Hammond, he was gonna team up with the Incredible Hulk, like Bill Bixby's Incredible Hulk, and I think he talked to Bill Bixby on the phone about it. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna team up and do this thing." So I thought that was really something that would have been the best thing. It would have been like a sort of semi-Avengers type of thing. They brought in Thor and Daredevil, obviously, making their own small little universe. Imagine if Spider-Man was in that. That would have been so awesome. The opening for the series, I think, is pretty memorable as well. It's not like Spider-Man in a way. Spider-Man's is like, it's memorable because it had it was more serious and everything like that. It wasn't like super corny. Spider-Man's was really, really corny with the saxophone playing, but I still appreciated it. But I think I like this opening more, if I had to be honest. And then some of the stories also tended to be sad sometimes. Like, you kind of felt bad for David Banner and the kind of stuff he had to go into as the Hulk. And all right, coming in at number 1. What is it? Is Marvel's Daredevil. I think the TV series is way better than the movie. I think a lot of people can agree on that. Some people probably in the minority probably think that the movie is way better than the TV series. That's them. I disagree with them completely. I think the TV series is better. I think Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock / Daredevil is one of the best performances. I think he's better than Ben Affleck because I think there's been 3 live-action Daredevils. There's been, Rex Smith from the Incredible Hulk TV movies, then there was TV movie, then there was Ben Affleck, and then there was, Charlie Cox. I think Charlie Cox definitely nails the role. I think he's a better Daredevil out of the 3, and that's what I would say about that. If I had to go through like what my favorite seasons were, I would say season 3 is my favorite. Then it would be season 1 and then season 2. Season 2 was the weakest of the series, but I still thought it delivered the action and the dramatic moments and beats of the show. We haven't you don't really see a lot in a lot of other superhero shows. So that is what I would say about that. As always, the hallway fight scenes in Daredevil was, in all 3 seasons, they were the best ones. I think season 3's was probably really awesome because it was just Matt Murdock himself. He wasn't wearing the Daredevil costume. And then I would say that, even the one in the first season hallway fight scene, that was all in one take. All of them were all in one take, but I think that was the best one-take fight scene that they've had in the entirety of the series. That's what I would go off of. And Vincent D'Onofrio, obviously as Kingpin, nails that role, nails it. All that stuff I said about, Jon Bernthal with the emotion and the anger and just everything in regards to that, I think he just nails that role completely. He's just kind of like the same in terms of Frank Castle, where it's like you don't really know what's going to happen with him. Like you don't know if Kingpin's gonna like automatically just like grab somebody and like just kill them or something, or if he's just gonna be like just normal and straight with somebody. You never know. You really don't know. And that's what I find to be very surprising about the whole thing. Bullseye, he was a really great character in season 3. You got to say he was a better iteration than the one that they had back in the 2003 movie. They fleshed him out. You got to see what made him the way he was, what the Kingpin had a role in playing to make him become even and more like the Bullseye that we got to see in the series towards the end of the series. So I think the actor who played him, Wilson Bethel, he did a good job. Probably not in the same league as like Vincent D'Onofrio, but I still think he did a great job. Again, Karen Page, okay, side character, liked her more in Punisher. Foggy Nelson, I like him in the series. He's a good side character in Daredevil. I like him more than Karen. That's what I would say. And also like the fight scene in the series finale of the series, when Daredevil, Bullseye, and Kingpin, when all 3 of them are fighting one another, that was such a intense fight. That really amped me up, and I think that was probably the best fight that they've had in the entirety of Marvel Netflix. That whole thing, like I mentioned, with the scores everything for me, and then just entirety of the choreography as well, just blending that in. It was superb. Daredevil never got a season 4, but I am assuming it will get rebooted in the future. They'll probably make it in the MCU, where maybe they'll make it a little bit more PG-13, not super violent like they did in Netflix. And we'll see what they do with it. They'll recast another actor. I don't think Charlie Cox is coming back as Daredevil, which is a shame. They could always, the Marvel knows how to hire good actors to play these roles, so I trust them in that. This is by far my favorite Marvel series ever. That's why it makes my number 1. And Also, it just nails everything. The action, the drama, even some bits of comedy here and there with some of the characters, I guess, little moments. Just sort of the emotional storytelling, the darkness, the grittiness, showing that whole thing. It embraces the whole crime drama aesthetic incredibly. Stick, as well, as I forgot to mention, he's also in this. I liked it, like I mentioned, Scott Glenn, who played Stick, he did a great job in everything that he's ever playing Stick in as well, so, that's great job. Yeah, I don't know, I hope that something like Moon Knight, which is going to be coming out soon, I hope Moon Knight can deliver in terms of that too. Moon Knight's another dark character in the comic books, but I hope that the MCU can find a way to make him dark as well in a good way. Maybe a hard PG-13, who knows. So yeah, those are my favorite Marvel series of all time, as I just mentioned. Yeah, feel free to leave a comment down below, letting me know what show was yours. Did you agree with what's your favorite show? Did your show or shows make it into my sort of top 10 list? Don't forget to watch my previous video detailing the previous shows that I mentioned. They were also my favorites. As always, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.